I've had the opportunity, to kind of start up and exit 4 companies within the corporate travel space. All of them a bit different. I think the lesson from that one is if you do start up a company, when you raise the capital, just make sure you hang on to as much equity as possible. So when you finally do go through a process of selling a company using investment bankers and attorneys and such, just make sure you have, companies, when they get afraid to make mistakes, they just get stuck. Everybody doesn't want to know the results. As a traveler, I'm used to going to airline.com, hotel.com, car.com, doing my same thing. I have a pretty good experience because the user interfaces have been built strategically, and I don't get that in the corporate travel world. What we're putting together is a platform that allows companies choice. You can have a traveler book direct, or you can have them book through your sanctioned online booking tool. But regardless, So TripBam was a company that we would take a hotel reservation, and then we had robotics that would check that rate every single day. And if it went down, we'd automatically rebook it. So the traveler didn't do anything other than just get an email saying, hey, congratulations, we just saved you $40 on your rate. And everybody likes a deal, right? And if you could really limit it to, look, I'm going to let the software do the work for me, and it finds savings and start. I think first off is, don't take the money too soon. If you got a great idea and it's going well, hold off on it.
So when it comes to leisure, if you were able to jump on a plane tomorrow, where would you want to go?
We've been looking at Iceland, check out the Northern Lights. We haven't done that. We haven't been to South Africa yet.
Welcome to another episode of Leadership Talks. I'm your host, Martin Rowinski, CEO of Boardseye. And today we have a pleasure of speaking with Steve Reynolds, the Chief Strategy Officer at Emburse and the former CEO and founder of TripBam. Steve has an extensive background in the travel and technology industry, having founded and led multiple successful companies. He was recently named one of the top 25 most influential executives within corporate travel. Steve, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Martin. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, this is definitely, I haven't had anybody from the travel industry, so I'm looking forward to this.
Okay. Well, it's kind of hard to accomplish, but happy to jump in wherever you think appropriate.
Awesome. Well, you've had a remarkable career in the travel and technology sectors, founding and leading several successful companies. Can you share some of the key lessons you've learned along the way that have shaped your approach to leadership and strategy?
Yeah, that's a really broad question. So I've had the opportunity, to kind of start up and exit 4 companies within the corporate travel space. All of them a bit different. My first one was 40 years ago. It was a division of a travel agency that was acquired by American Express. And I think the lesson from that one is if you do start up a company, when you raise the capital, just make sure you hang on to as much equity as possible. On that one, I kind of started out with what I thought was a fair amount of equity, turned out not to be, and lessons learned upon the exit, a bit surprised. So didn't make that mistake twice. On the second one, some executives in the travel space called me up, said I want to kind of do it again. So we started up a company in Dallas called Travel Technologies Group. That morphed into a much larger company called TRX, and that company IPO'd in 2003, and fairly successful IPO. But the lessons learned on that one was don't IPO until you're ready, until you're significantly larger. We were doing about 180 million in revenue, and that was just way too small for a publicly traded company. Just the rigors, the cost, the discipline. When you're publicly traded, puts a lot of tax on the company, and it really just kind of kicked us to our knees. We stopped, the innovation slowed down, just became a real challenge. So that was that one. Had another startup that was a CTD, kind of a platform play anyway, getting to corporate travel specific. But that one I had to exit fairly early, sold it to Sutherland Global to start up TripBam, or really just once I raised a venture capital round with this most recent company, it was time for me to kind of decide what I want to do, and I had to exit that company and then really get serious behind TripBam, and it was just a wild ride. I mean, the company grew dramatically, about 40% year over year, and then just recently exited in July and acquired by Emburse, which is backed by K1, which is a private equity firm out of LA. And I think the lesson learned on that one is that when you finally do go through a process of selling a company using investment bankers and attorneys and such, just make sure you have a really strong team, there to help you out through the process. Admit when you don't know things, and it always takes a lot more time and a lot more work than you anticipate. But we had a successful outcome. It turned out really well. And I've been now with Emburse for about a little over a year. And now Chief Strategy Officer, helping Emburse sort of navigate into travel to build out a full travel and expense platform.
Are you part of the founding team behind Emburse, or they just brought you on as a CTO? I'm sorry, CSO.
So they acquired my company in July. Emburse has been around for a number of years.
Ones that acquired it.
Yeah. So the philosophy is, rather than try and build all of the different components that make up travel and expense, let's buy the best of breed companies out there and integrate them and put them under the Emburse brand. So that is what we're doing, and kind of what I'm involved in.
Okay, got it. So when you look back and you obviously, have lessons that you've learned, do you look at those lessons as tough lessons, or you just look at it as could have done better, but let's move on and do better next time?
Yeah, it's more of the latter. I mean, companies, when they get afraid to make mistakes, they just get stuck. Everybody doesn't want to say anything. The phone calls get really quiet. No one's willing to take any risk. And that's just a bad spot to be in. So you got to be willing to try things, fail quick, move on, admit your mistakes. And, nobody's at fault. It's just, hey, we gave it a try. We put a significant amount of effort or capital or whatever into it. Come on, it didn't work. And you got to be also kind of willing to pull the plug fairly early and just say, look, this is either a lot harder or, it's just not working like we anticipated. Let's pull the plug on this one. Let's go invest our time and effort on some of these other things that look, easier, better, whatever.
I agree. I always say, and I've said this in so many because I'm glad that I'm talking to people that feel the same way. But yeah, failure is just a stepping stone to success, right?
Right. That's right. Yeah. I mean, it's you see lots of companies or CEOs where they'll fire someone over a failure. And I mean, sometimes that's appropriate, if it's just a systemic problem where a guy just keeps making the wrong decisions, or gal, over and over again. But if someone's willing to stick their neck out and try something new, and put their, just a lot of effort, you can't fail the guy for trying, or gal, right? You should reward them, pat them on the back. Nice job. I know it didn't work out the way expected, but come on, let's move on. Let's take your talents and apply them to something that might give us a better chance for success. Yeah. And that's a hard decision. Those are hard calls to make, because typically you've invested, 7-8 figures in these ventures, and winding them down is tough. But that's what you got to do.
It's reality. As the Chief Strategy Officer now at Emburse, you're responsible for integrating best-in-class solutions to provide an end-to-end travel and expense solution. What are some of the biggest challenges and opportunities you see in the space, and how is Emburse positioned to address them?
So corporate travel is evolving quite a bit. The legacy distribution method is sort of starting to fall apart a bit. And what I mean by that is most larger companies, they hire a travel agency. They then implement an online booking tool. They tend to try and enforce policy and compliance and all kinds of other stuff through that booking tool. And it creates a pretty high level of traveler dissatisfaction. as an end result. As a traveler, I'm used to going to airline.com, hotel.com, car.com, doing my same thing. I have a pretty good experience because the user interfaces have been built strategically, and I don't get that in the corporate travel world. And there's companies out there that compete with Emburse that have been just following that legacy model for 40 years. And it's just time to try something different, to try something unique. There's some that will just be kipping and screaming and won't change. But, what we're putting together is a platform that allows companies choice. You can have a traveler book direct, or you can have them book through your sanctioned online booking tool. But regardless, all the data ends up in the same place. And it's warehoused. It feeds your mobile solution. It pre-populates an expense report. The vision for Emburse is to eventually just, totally automate the expense process, approval process, and payment, so that you as a traveler, if you're compliant, it's very painless, it's easy, and it's quick, right? So that's where we're heading. We're a long way there with the acquisitions that we've made, but we still have some integration work to be done as far as getting the data, in the right places at the right time.
Got it. And what originally inspired you to start TripBam, and how do you see the future of travel spend optimization evolving?
Yeah. So TripBam was a company that we would take a hotel reservation, and then we had robotics that would check that rate every single day. And if it went down, we'd automatically rebook it. So the traveler didn't do anything other than just get an email saying, hey, congratulations, we just saved you $40 on your rate. And if it dropped again, we would keep checking it, and it would just keep going on down. Then we also added functionality where we could look at other hotels nearby. So you would go and you'd say, I'm interested in these 6 hotels, all right around where I want to be for my meeting or for my party or whatever. And it would just shop them every day and would let you know that if the rate dropped below a certain level, if you want to change, click here. And we would change the reservation from one hotel to the other. And it worked extremely well. I mean, we saved companies millions and millions of dollars to where the company got to where it was serving 250 of the largest companies around the globe. And then we went and applied those same robotics to the airfare side as well, which saved, as much money on the hotel side. And so the funny story behind it was I was at a board meeting in DC, and we were sitting around a table having lunch or whatever, comparing kind of hotel rates of all things. And one guy always seemed to have the best rate. And I was like, how do you do that? He goes, well, I have the secretary where she checks the hotel rates every day for me. And if the rate drops, she goes and rebooks it. I'm like, well, that's a hell of a secretary. But B, that's probably something we could automate. And so we went and we bought a bunch of hotel data. We created some algorithms and robotics just to kind of see what would happen. And lo and behold, they change all the time. Most travelers don't realize how often these hotel rates fluctuate. And so we built the software, built a website, got it all going. And my buddies on the corporate travel side said, look, if you can apply that to corporate travel, we're all in. So we pivoted, followed the money, and then that's how the company got started.
That's awesome. Yeah, it sounds so simple, but actually an extremely cool service.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's something that I think there are travelers that do manually today.
Yeah.
I don't know if you look, but it's
I know my wife does.
Yeah, exactly. My wife did as well. My wife is the biggest fan of TripBam on the planet. It's just, and everybody likes a deal, right? And if you could really limit it to, look, I'm going to let the software do the work for me, and it finds savings, and I'm okay with that hotel because I've already vetted it. It just works really well.
That's awesome. At which stage in your life did you decide to become an entrepreneur, and especially in travel industry?
Yeah, so that was all accidental. That was just, I wish I could say it was strategic, but it was anything but. I was a computer science degree, went and got a master's MBA, was recorded right out of college with Ernst & Young, which my first assignment was LifeGo Travel. And the owner of the travel agency got tired of paying the bill and the crazy hourly rates at the time. and said, do you want to come work here? And I go, well, I'm really not too thrilled with the idea of working for a travel agency. So he said, well, what if we started a company? And I'm like, okay, that could be interesting. So next thing you know, I'm leaving Ernst & Winnie and starting up a company that was focused on building technology for the travel space. And the technology really accelerated the travel agency side of the business. I mean, they grew from about 300 million in sales to 3 billion in sales over about a 3-year period. And then that got the attention of American Express, the largest travel agency on the planet. They came in, bought the whole thing, primarily for the technology. And then I lasted about 2 years with Amex before I decided to let's go do this again. So I've got this serial entrepreneurial thing going within the corporate travel space.
That's not a bad accident to land into where you exit with Amex buying you.
That's true. That's true. It worked out well. And I'm like, okay, well, that wasn't all that hard. Let's go do it again. So,
yeah, no, I remember the days of AKA travel agents used to walk into a office and sit down and book your entire trip. Now it seems like everything's done online.
Pretty much. I mean, unless you have some complex international trip or you're doing the round world kind of thing, there's, a lot of it is more for leisure if you want the destination expertise.
Yeah.
I'm going to Africa, I want someone that's been there, knows a lot about it, steer me in the right direction. But for corporate travel, I would say 80-85% is all done online these days.
Yeah.
If not more. Yeah.
And you've built some great tools to help that out.
That's right. That's right.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And there's all kinds of other tools as well that we've built. I mean, I've built online booking tools, getting access to content that's outside of the normal distribution channel. I don't know if you've heard of NDC, or for a while Southwest Airlines wasn't available through the GDSs. So we built some tools for that. All kinds of stuff. They got real creative. Then the internet came along, and that created a whole ton of opportunity. And now artificial intelligence is creating new opportunities within corporate travel to make it even more seamless. So there's not a shortage of things to do. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely. If you were to leave a message in a room, say of 3,000 people, entrepreneurs, everybody from successful to people that have done it and failed, and to green people that have never but maybe are curious about entrepreneurship, what message would you want to deliver to leave a positive mark on them?
Yeah, there's so many. I mean, where do you start? I think first off is, don't take the money too soon. If you got a great idea and it's going well, hold off on as long as possible before you start to raise capital. Because once you bring in outside money, you bring in outside timetables, preferences. Some are B2C, some are B2B, and it makes life more complicated. Let's put it that way. Wait until you're cash flow positive, and really when you can see that, okay, if I take in some money, I can accelerate growth. I know how to deploy this capital in a much more, strategic way. That would be key. And don't just go with the biggest valuation. I mean, once you go, if you raise 100 million or whatever, now you've set expectation that you're going to be $1 billion company, and that's just hard to accomplish, right? It's just, find the strategic money, the smart money, I call it, the right partner if you do raise capital, and life will be a lot better. The second thing I learned is don't spend the money once you get it. Every dollar is like oxygen, and you don't want to run out of oxygen, along the way. Now, don't get me wrong, you got to spend money in certain places, mostly to accelerate growth. But companies, I've seen too many of them just start making stupid decisions because I've got money. Rather than building something, I'm going to go buy some product. I'm going to overpay for it. Or I'm going to just hire the best law firm on the planet, and pay $1,000 an hour, when really you don't need that kind of stuff. You got to stay scrappy and nimble, and really just don't try not to spend the money stupidly and hang on to as much as possible. It gives you a much longer term to figure things out and potentially pivot. I guess the other lesson is every company pivots. You may think you're not going to, but I guarantee you will. Somewhere along the way, you're going to decide, holy crap, you know, I know we're chasing this particular market, B2C, whatever, but B2B is where it's at. And we need to turn the corner. And it just takes a while to figure that out. So that's why you also, hang on to the money as much as possible, because once you do pivot, it takes a while to get that revenue stream where you want it to be, and then start to see the growth rate, that follows.
That's for
Those
sure.
are a few. I could go all day.
No, those are great pointers. Since you're in the travel industry, do you personally travel a lot?
I used to, and I hope to in the near future. I mean, so there's corporate travel and there's leisure travel. In my early days, just a funny story, we sold software to Continental Airlines, and they didn't have any money at the time. So they paid us in tickets, airline tickets. So we were just drowning in all of these first class airline tickets anywhere Continental Airlines flew. So my wife and I, it was pre-kids, we just got married. We were flying all over the place. We'd go to Paris, London, Germany, wherever, you name it. We hopped on a plane and went. But that was early days. And then it got to be all about corporate travel, back and forth to New York, LA, Chicago, kind of the typical thing. Lots of trips to Europe, predominantly London, UK. And then now my corporate travel slowed down, especially as a result of COVID. Everybody's doing web calls now. Now it's just kind of events, trade shows and stuff. And then I'm hoping to, in the near future, at some point retire and then get back and do some leisure travel. And maybe I'll sell some more software to airlines for airline tickets and go back to where I was. But
so when it comes to leisure, if you were able to jump on a plane tomorrow, where would you want to go?
Oof. Well, that's a surprise question. We've been looking at Iceland, check out the Northern Lights. We haven't done that. We haven't been to South Africa yet. We just got back from Japan. We went to Tokyo and Kyoto and a few places over there. Had a great trip. Italy is one of our favorite spots.
Yeah.
We've been there multiple times. I like Paris. Not so much the city, but the suburbs or whatever, and the smaller towns around Paris. Had some really good trips there. I like Germany a lot. There's all kinds of places I wish to go. I really haven't traveled that much for leisure in the U.S., so there's parts of California I'd like to see, and probably check out Alaska, stuff like that.
Where are you located now?
I'm in Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Where are
awesome.
you going to next?
Actually, in I think 2 weeks, on the 18th, I'm off to Italy, France and Italy.
Okay. Whereabouts in Italy are you going?
I'll be Cinque Terre and Capri, so I'm off the coast.
Yeah, Cinque Terre is great. We had a really nice trip there. There's one place we are going around the holidays. We're heading to Corrales, Mexico.
Okay.
If you've never heard of it, you need to check it out. It's C-A-R.
I have not. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to tell people about it because it's going to get too popular, but it's really unique. Yeah, kind of, but it's better. It's got a lot of outdoor large artwork. It's a cove that was bought by an Italian designer. So it has villas all around it. It's just really unique. And it's just, check out Correas if you get a chance.
That's awesome. Well, thank you, Steve. Thanks for joining us on today and sharing your insights, your experience and vision in the travel and technology industries. They're truly inspiring, and it's been a pleasure to hear about your journey and the innovative work you're doing at Emburse. And I love the fact that you got into industry by, I guess you can say, accidents or coincidence. So that's pretty awesome.
I think most people, if you're going to get into a particular vertical, it's not really by design. It just sort of happens when you get recruited out of college and you just end up on your first assignment, whatever it might be. But it worked out great. And I think for most folks, it works out pretty well.
Awesome.
As well. But thanks, Martin. I enjoyed our conversation.
No, it was great. And for our audience, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Leadership Talks, and stay tuned for more inspiring conversations with leaders from various industries. Thank you, and until next time, take care, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in to Leadership Talks. Don't forget to subscribe for more insightful conversations with industry leaders. Your support means a lot to us.